Welcome to our episode of Reach Minds, Thoughts for Our Life's Journey podcast. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the powerful and often complex relationship between mothers and daughters. My guest today is Janet Lung Standings, who shares her incredible personal journey after the death of her father in her mission of getting to know her mother better. A journey that unexpectedly opened a Pandora box of self-discovery. Through exploring her mother's experiences and the cultural expectations from Hong Kong that shaped her upbringing, Janet began to unravel the threads of her own identity, leadership style, and those nagging feelings that often surfaced at stressful times in both her personal and professional life. Now, Janet comes from a very accomplished background. She has worked in the corporate world for the last 30 years, has held many senior roles in major corporations like Mars and Danone, and most recently, she was the Chief Procurement Officer at Johnson Matthey. Janet was born in Hong Kong. However, when she was a teenager, she came to a boarding school in the UK. She is a passionate advocate for diversity, inclusion, and equity. And wherever she can, she integrates these values into business practices, believing that success is built on strong relationship and collaborations. Welcome, Janet.
Thank you for having me, Nita. Pleasure to be here.
I'm looking forward to our conversation around mothers and daughters and the complexity and the richness that arises from it. Janet, tell me, what sparked this journey for you to look at your relationship with your mother?
Two things. One was guilt. When my father was at his deathbed, I was still fighting my mum. Yeah, just like strong characters. I was always speaking to her in a kind of challenging way. And even with my dad's last breath, he was like, "Don't fight your mom." And I felt so bad. I felt so guilty. And because of my dad's passing, I also had to face my own mortality, right? I know my mum isn't going to last forever, and I'm not going to last forever either. Life is short. So it triggered me to do something about it. And that's what I made it was a defining moment for me, whether I had my priorities right. So I made a decision, actually something had to give, the day job had to give. And I decided to free myself up to be able to go and live with my mum for a little while after my dad died. Whatever may come, because I have not lived with her for over 30 something years. Yeah, it was a strange experience for her as much as for me.
So you took the risk in the dark to go and live with your mother, not knowing how it was going to be between the pair of you.
Correct. Well, we knew it was going to be tough. Yeah, my husband knew it was going to be tough, and I even took counsel from people that were saying farewell to me and in my work when I left. I said, perhaps you could give me a counsel. Yeah, I remember I had a impromptu town hall on the floor where my people came to see me, and they went around the room telling me a piece of advice each. What would I do if I feel like I was going to fight my mum again? And there was many good advice, and I did actually bring some of that wisdom into play. Certainly at the first couple of weeks, for sure.
Now, one of the things when we were preparing for this, your journey about exploring your relationship with your mother started maybe even before then as well, in terms of your own journey about you.
Yeah, indeed. So as one get more senior, as one get into leadership roles, it's normal we facing our challenges. Yeah. And I already recognize actually I've never sought advice from my mom in her capacity as a leader in her own right. Yeah. So she was a head mistress. She was a head teacher, but not just any head teacher. She was promoted into running a totally new school in a new town, if you like, a kind of new community the government in Hong Kong was building together for 3,000 children.
Wow.
And actually, she did so well. She was actually gonged by Chris Patten, the last governor of Hong Kong. It's not something that she talks about because that's not how she was motivated, but she was very respected in the community. And that's not our personal neighborhood. She had to travel 4 hours each day round trip to her school.
What do you think maintained her to do this?
I think what I admire her is actually she's very good in her system thinking. If I use some management speak here, she really see the big picture and see where her contribution is needed. So she saw her role not only have to set up the school and run the school, but there are the children, the families of the children. So actually, she was already a key stakeholder of this new development, this new community. And she really played her part in facing in all the challenges a new community facing, but also be that role model for everyone in the different capacity that's needed for her.
And so when you look back at her career and from your daughter lenses, was she a role model for you?
That's the big discovery, I think, in this trip. I think for the very first time, I felt grown up enough to be able to talk to my mom woman to woman. And actually, the role model piece, that for many good things, I think in my own leadership, I have got from her, either through DNA or through learning. And there are other traits that I'm sure I also picked up in my prior programming. So, for example, what I admire her a lot is not only her courage, but her creativity in solving problems that she hasn't faced before. And that's something that I have picked up. Yeah. And it's quite nice to think like that because that means no one can take it away. I was born with it in a way. Yeah.
Mm.
It helps me with my confidence as well. The other thing that I also saw in her is her perseverance, the resilience when things are tough. And I've seen some tough situation in the household with my grandparents were very sick, or as well as she played me back some story situations she had to face into when she was running the school. And her resilience on standing strong for others. I think that was really incredible to see it so clearly this time when I spoke with her woman to woman as at an adult level. I also saw there were things that was not sitting so well. And that's when
Okay.
actually the first time I realized that cultural influence in me also was projected from her role.
Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, so despite I just told you she's this awesome big woman leader and probably my
Yes.
first most important role model, at home, she was still expected to be the subservient wife and the daughter-in-law. And in Chinese culture, it's still very male orientated. So the daughter-in-law is supposed to serve everyone else. And then taking care of your children is just like your job, really. Now, I have to say that the setup of the household was that my grandparents did also do some, child minding and looking after us. That's how the whole family had worked. But
Mm.
that hierarchy, I think that also caused her a lot of frustration in terms of having to play all these different roles. So she would be this big leader at work and
Hmm.
then to be the subservient person. And in some of the one-to-ones I had with her during this stay with her, did come out. There were points that it was really, she would describe it totally exhausted her energy. You have to play these subservient roles,
Which didn't come natural to her.
which didn't come I guess it didn't come natural to her, but she practiced it they were married for 60 years. But it was her role. And I think that's also what I have to admire her for it. Thinking about that, she actually played all her roles very well and keep all the plates spinning in the air. Because as a child, I never felt discourse. Yes, sometimes there were arguments, but there was nothing was falling apart. Maybe a lot of times things were on the edge. And when things went wrong or there was unexpected situation, she was always very good in finding a solution and keeping things calm. So that's her. The other role that she slipped into and played very well, even though it was much to her, probably frustration.
So when you think about your mum and looking at her from a younger perspective, do you think she lived her life to her full potential?
I asked her this. This is like another one of these conversation. She said, well, she would say no. Actually, if she had it again, she wouldn't have children.
Oh,
Unbelievable. Because she actually wanted to have contributed more through her professional life. However, she had reconciled at some point before she started having children, and I was the firstborn, by the way, that actually it would be terrible to do a lot of good work and have lots of accolades, but no one to share it with. But there was this conversation, oh, I wish I hadn't married to have children.
all right.
Wow.
Now, how have the kind of cultural influences that your mother found herself in those contexts have had an impact on you?
This is a real new discovery for me. It was only this recently that I actually made a connection. I think that pre-programming, when things get really tough or very stressful, she bottle it all in and get on with it. I think that have projected on me. Yeah, because now if I look back, those really unsatisfactory feeling that I had come across, especially a stressful time of my working life, I can now map back into say, why did I not say something? Or why did I allow this to happen and just let them talk to me like this? I also found myself guilty of slipping into that differential role, unnecessarily probably putting the other person on the pedestal. I have to say, this was a real valuable discovery for me.
But that's great, isn't it? That you can discover it now rather than in your final deathbed to wake up to that, really.
But just like how my mum shared her frustration on her 60 years of marriage, many times like this would have happened at home, either with my grandparents or with my dad, etc. And this kind of situation didn't sit well with her, made her not feeling good about herself. Just
Right.
like for me, the great thing is now I've discovered it and made the connection. I now can trace back, why did I start not liking myself when this kind of situation happened? So just like I said to my mom, I said, they're all dead now. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I felt like I sat back I was coaching her to say, look, we all just have one life.
Yep.
I think we just need to be our own person to live all of it. And it's amazing that she has taken that on in that journey of grieving together with me. And towards the last week of my planned stay with her, they were already planning to join art classes again. And then now, last couple of weeks, when I spoke with her on FaceTime, she's actually signing up to teach at the community center again at 82. That's awesome.
That is fantastic. And where I'm actually interested, the kind of advice that you're giving to your mother, how are you giving that to yourself, Janet?
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I think what I try to hold dear is I made this decision at this defining moment, and looking back, it's gone very well so far, but it's not to be taken for granted. I have to remember why I made this choice and stay true to it. in what I'm doing, have that balance, have that time to still attend to my family. This is also something I admire of my mother. Now, when she could tell me all the bad times and she didn't enjoy life and she was also under a lot of stress. But what she did do, I think, is because she attended to her family despite it was not easy. I think her secure base was strong for her leadership because she knew her priorities were right. And I think that's something that I have to always still remind myself now, because I've almost started my career the other way around. I'd have taken my family for granted, my parents, my own family. Previously, I moved to
Mm.
family in the Netherlands, and my husband didn't work. I think now at this phase of my life and career, I need to respect those balance of priorities much more.
So, in your discovery with your mother, were there any further gems that you thought, oh, I didn't know this? That you also, as we said earlier on, the Pandora box of self discovery.
Yeah, I also had totally underappreciated. There was unclosed doors. So when I was sent, I'm afraid I have to keep using this phrase, I was sent to boarding school at a very young age. And it sounded like I was a parcel that was unwanted, that got given away almost.
Mm.
I think that the fear of rejection or feeling rejected, that of that little girl, I need to heal. I at some point during my adult conversation and adult journey with my life, I also managed to put that ending and appease the little girl to say, it's okay. Everything is okay. You can stay at home. We don't need you anymore.
It's about re-looking at your experience, and rather than feeling, as you're saying, rejected, feeling that you can nurture and have compassion and love for that you were when you were younger, being sent off to boarding school and feeling it's okay. You are loved, you are cared for, you are wanted. And that in itself, I would imagine, is quite liberating.
It is totally liberating. Yeah, it really, when that moment came, I felt, wow. I talked to my cousins, they're my friends. I talked to my uncles and auntie, I relate to them in my order of hierarchy in the Chinese culture. But after I had that realization, I felt so liberated to relate to them as a grown up, as a grown woman with all my wealth of experience, without worrying about I need to get back to this little girl that was left.
What a gem to discover through a grieving process that you did with your mother, really.
Indeed. I would say the biggest takeaway from this experience is actually the power of truly knowing yourself. It feels quite scary. I even feel a little bit emotional telling you this now.
Mm.
I think it's taken me a lot of courage to really face up to it. But I feel very privileged that not only I was there to be a companion for my mum when she's still alive, that I could actually go through the discovery with her. Yeah, and be able to play back. When I went to boarding school, I felt you were just making space for my little sister that came along. And she could tell me the trouble they went into to get the finances together
Mm.
to allow this to happen, and how brave they were to let me take a different path. So that was, yeah, it helped me to unlock a lot of the locked up emotion, I think, from the past.
I can feel it and I can sense it, that this opened up this amazing Pandora box, or a shell as I visualize it in my head for you. Janet, thank you so much for being so open and for being vulnerable to share your experiences from a very heartfelt place about your journey with your mum and your own self-discovery.
Thank you for the opportunity, Nita.
Thank you. If you enjoy listening, tell a friend.